Oh, hey everyone, it's your boy once again, RKO2582, back to do the second edition of the mini-series that I like to call the African-American Wrestler Chroncles. As you already know, I kicked this off last Wednesday with my boy, boom, 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 Kofi Kingston, and this week's edition of the show, I'm going to talk about Mr. 305, Montel Vontavious Porter, MVP. Boring! Had to do it. Alright, so let's not waste any time and get this discussion underway.
One, two, you hear the clock ticking, tick, tock.
Alright, how I was introduced to MVP. As you know, late 2006 WWE, that's how I was introduced to MVP. When he wasn't really made his first official match yet, he was just, backstage, talking to Teddy Long saying, like, I'm MVP, saying, you ain't gonna sign a franchise player. You have to sign SmackDown MVP and all that jazz, calling his agent on the phone, hilarious, chilling out with the bodyguards and, of course, the hot chicks. Oh, yeah. And looking all sharp with his suits and whatnot, the bling, that chain, oh my god. And I was thinking at first, I was like, who the hell is this man? He's saying he's all this stuff, but he ain't showing me nothing. He just keeps hyping himself up. And he's saying he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and he hasn't even been in the ring yet. So it was starting to kind of bother me and stuff. But as the months go on, going into 2007, which I will get to towards this discussion.
One, two, you hear the clock ticking, tick, tock.
Alright, now I get to talk about my favorite matches of Montel Vontavious Porter. Alright, late 2006, yeah, MVP still improved himself, but after the No Mercy, debut, which was just a squash match, and thought he did so much there, but he still had more to prove. But with his rivalry with Kane, he was starting to get up there. So, one of the matches I enjoyed during the Kane MVP rivalry was, of course, the street fight that took place at a SmackDown, episode in London or England, somewhere like that. It was a good match and stuff, and I like the spot where Kane, and MVP was talking trash and all, like, you ain't gonna beat me, I'm MVP, and then Kane, through the phone door at him. It was hilarious. And then, of course, Kenny, jumped the Kane and stuff, and then they double team Kane, and MVP got his first victory and stuff. And then he was all saying later on, I beat him in cage match, and then Armageddon, and it led up to the Inferno match, and at the time it hadn't been a Inferno match in 7.5 years. The first one, it was insane. And then this was the first match that kicked off the Armageddon card. It was a triple main event in that card too, so I was very happy. And then at the time I still wasn't sold on MVP just yet. I was cheering for Kane, and MVP got burned. He's like, oh my god! And then I like how the fire put him out and stuff. And then of course JBO was pissed the fans. We were cheering for that MVP got burned and stuff. And then of course, man, when MVP started facing this guy right here, the man who shall not be named, Chris Benoit. This match is with Chris Benoit pretty much made MVP shine and improve his in-ring skills dramatically. I mean, that match they had at WrestleMania 23 was awesome. I even thought at one point, I thought MVP was this close to becoming the new U.S. champion, because he pretty much had Benoit beat. He was countering his, triple crossface, sharpshooter, and Benoit had to use the headbutt just to beat him. So he pretty much didn't use none of his finishers to beat him, because MVP powered out of those finishers. And then again at Backlash 2007 here in Atlanta, wished I was at the Phillips Arena that night, but thankfully I watched it on pay-per-view with my father at Chroncles at the time. It was a great match and stuff. MVP once again close but no scar. And then finally, at Judgment Day 2007, 2 out of 3 falls, one last chance at the U.S. title, and that was my favorite MVP versus Benoit matches out of the trilogy. That was the best one of mine, because MVP straight up beat Chris Benoit 2 straight falls, and that was awesome as hell. And And I marked out too, and I was saying, everyone saying like, yeah, I told you MVP was gonna beat the system. He said he was gonna let him hold down, and he gonna be the greatest United States champion of all time. And it was awesome, and I loved it. And I loved it afterwards too. Alright, and then of course he had a good first outfit, and then he went up against Matt Hardy. Their match at the Great American Bash in the same year was pretty good too. And who would have thunk it that MVP said he was so good, he said I could team up with anybody, and guess who it was? Matt freaking Hardy. And then believe it or not, they had no choice but to join forces to take on at the tag team, which was hot at the time, Deuce and Domino, and they beat the long at the time London Kid, and they were pretty much held the belts for almost a year. And then they were quick on the scene. They were all like, yeah. And then I was so happy towards the end of this match. I know just when Hardy did all the work, MVP just got the cover. 1, 2, 3, and I was marking out like MVP. He was like, yes. And he was wearing all the gold, both the tag team titles and U.S. champion. It was awesome as hell. It it was just great. And then because like saying, Matt already did all the work, John. MVP only came in last minute. And I like what JBL said. Matt Hardy took almost the whole match. Well, MVP won the match just in 3 seconds. And I like when MVP, like in their tag team title, was saying, I'm the captain of the team, saying, I'm the only man in 3 halves. Half man, half amazing, half a tag team champion. Why? Because I am better than you. Oh, I love miss him saying that. And then of course, SmackDown 2009 around March when he faced up against Shelton Benjamin for the U.S. Championship. And this wasn't a bad match, and this is when MVP got the second reign as U.S. Champion after being Shelton. And at the time, Shelton was the longest reign champion of any brand, so that means something.
One, two, you hear the clock ticking, tick, tock.
Yeah, the dreaded D push of MVP along with but first the D push. MVP was pretty much kicking ass and taking names, and he had a good first year in WWE. He was the U.S. champion, tag team champion, a dual champion in WWE. He was pretty much, he was, if not one of my personal favorite superstars in all of WWE. And he was pretty much helping SmackDown, and Matt Hardy, I guess, too, in 2007 when SmackDown was pretty much a dying brand because most of their top stars were pretty much hurt. You had Mysterio out, Batista, Taker, Edge. It was just insane. So, in my opinion, they were the saving grace of that year since it was going through dark times, the whole Benoit situation. So, yeah. But anyhow, after 2008, after Backlash, him losing the U.S. Championship, after him being a champ for almost nearly a year, losing it to finally Matt Hardy and stuff, which makes sense, I hated that. But after that, MVP kept losing and losing and losing, which pissed me off because every time they try and do a losing streak with somebody, it almost never works and stuff. And then around 2009, he got drafted. He was the first draft pick to Monday Night Raw, and he was the U.S. champ too, and he brought the U.S. title to Raw for the first time ever. And it's always been a SmackDown title, but now it's a Raw title. And then I thought MVP was gonna finally get that push I've been wanting him to get since day one. He's done so much on SmackDown. Now it's time to see what he's gonna do with the A Show. However, I thought he was gonna go on a few Randy Orton, but unfortunately they pulled the plug on that too damn early. For a moment I thought when he gave the title to Kofi Kingston, which I mentioned last week was one of my favorite matches of his. I thought MVP was gonna go for the WWE title, but unfortunately, yeah, he had to team up with Mark Henry and stuff, and I really hated this. And he got lost in the shuffle, and then he got drafted back to SmackDown in 2010. And I thought they were gonna push him again, but he was still struggling even on the brand which made him who he was. And then the release happened. December 2010, MVP finally asked for his release, and all I gotta say is the WWE, they really dropped the ball on him. They really did. I actually thought they were going to make him either WWE World Heavyweight Champion, but we'll never know. So
1, 2, you hear the clock ticking, tick, tock.
Oh yeah, Japan. Oh, the land of the rising sun, a country that I want to visit someday in my lifetime. But when MVP made his debut, IWGP debut back in February of last year, oh man, it was just, I was very happy to hear that he was going to Japan, like he said, man. He said it was always a dream of his to go to Japan and be somebody, and boy, he ever did. He became the first ever IWGP Intercontinental Champion after winning a tournament to crown the first ever champion, and MVP won, and I couldn't be any happier. No one deserved that belt more than MVP because he got, the whole WWE incident. But yeah, he was awesome as hell. He was a good IC champion. He really was. And now the legacy is started behind him, so that means a lot. So, and then, earlier this year, January last month, he got to live his dream of being part of Wrestling Kingdom 6 and in the Tokyo Dome, and he went up against Tanaka and Takahashi, and guess who his tag team partner was? And it was MVP's choice. Believe it or not, it was the gold standard, or whatever you want to call him, Shelton freaking Benjamin. And I have to say, those two, make a great tag team, believe it or not. They work really well together. And it's surprising, too. Yeah, who would have thought MVP and Shelton are good friends in real life? And and don't forget the description box. I will have that match, that tag match that I just discussed on with MVP Shelton Benjamin going up against Tanaka and Takahashi. You'll love that match. It was very awesome to watch.
1, 2, you hear the clock ticking, tick, tock.
My favorite highlights of Montel Vontavious Porter. First off, when he made his debut, I enjoyed the heck out of that MVP press conference, making him sign the biggest contract in the history of SmackDown. And it was a big fat contract, too. It was awesome, too. And then he was all asking questions, like a press conference. And I like what he said, gorgeous redhead, what's your question? I was like, I wish we saw her face. No, if MP says she's gorgeous, she must have been. And of course, when MVP finally won the U.S. title from Chris Benoit, he had a U.S. title celebration. It was epic as hell. He had a car, had balloons, pyro, and everything. He was pretending like he was giving a speech and stuff. And I liked it during the speech when he said, "It's not exactly my style to say I told you so, but from the very beginning, I was saying it. I sure been displaying it, and now your television set is replaying. I'm the United States Champion, MVP, and I told you so." I was like, thank you, MVP, and oh my God, I could not have been a bigger MVP fan at that very moment. And he was right. He backed up what he said, and I couldn't be happier. And that was the only U.S. title celebration. He had a U.S. championship ring, like the sports, like when they win the finals. That's how the style of that ring was. And JBL, of all people, I know at first JBL was all against him, but then he was kissing his ass, and I loved it, and he gave him a championship ring. I thought it was awesome too. And then of course the Matt Hardy MVP competitions throughout SmackDown throughout 2000. They had the chess, basketball. The pizza eating contest, you name it. They were doing all the contests just so MVP could prove that I am better than Matt Hardy, and it was hilarious. And I thought that was the most entertaining they had on SmackDown. And that's what, like I said earlier, it pretty much saved the brand from, being more worse shaped than it already was. So, and of course, the 1-year anniversary of the VIP Lounge, MVP celebrated with all his friends saying he was kicking ass. U.S. champ, tag team champ, partying and stuff, and he was my rookie year, and then of course Matt Hardy had to spoil the party and stuff, and then he had to face Kane once again later in the night. And last but certainly not least, MVP's epic entrance at WrestleMania 23. I thought that was his best WrestleMania entrance overall, because all the other runs he was part of Money in the Bank. But this was just awesome. He had cheerleaders and stuff because he's MVP. And it was awesome. I love it. And yeah, he had the U.S. colors too in his jumpsuit. Yeah, everyone was at the time going Power Ranger, Power Ranger, which I didn't care because he was an awesome Power Ranger. All right.
1, 2, you hear the clock ticking, tick, tock.
Alright, final thoughts on MVP. What can I say? MVP was a great wrestler. I'm so happy I put him on this Chronicles series because he made me, like I said, proud to be an African American. You know, he grew up on the wrong side of the tracks. It's just, and to see where he is now, he really is a rags to riches type of story. He really is, and I appreciate him for that. And I hope he comes back to WWE someday. I really do. And I remember, and I recently read an interview with MVP saying if he did come back to WWE, he said he would go back home to SmackDown. He would like to have a feud with CM Punk. That would be epic because I remember them having a match during the ECW champion versus champion CM Punk versus MVP, and it was a good match until the end when Chavo screwed it up and stuff. But that would be something to see. MVP and CM Punk and stuff. It was epic, and along with the younger talent on SmackDown. I agree with him completely. And I wish he would have stayed in MVP because WrestleMania 28, ironically enough, is in his hometown of Miami, even though he lives in Houston, Texas. But that would be awesome. I even said at one point in time that MVP's mic skills was second to The Rock's mic skills. Because MVP showed that The Rock wasn't the only one, a brother who was good on the mic. MVP was that good. He was. And it was just, and once again, like I said, I really hope someday MVP comes back to WWE. And I'm glad he's doing very well in Japan. So, big up to MVP. Alright, next week's edition of my African-American Wrestler Chronicles, I'm going to talk about Ain't No Stopping Me Now! Shelton Benjamin. Boy, I'm going to have a ball talking about that. So until next Wednesday, all I got to say is 365 Black, and take care.